Hey guys, yeah, thanks for joining me today. I really do appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk to you about some of this stuff. So, I think there's a big misconception about what we do in this community, what we do with my program. A lot of people think it's all just chicken and broccoli and Navy SEAL workouts, and that couldn't be further from the truth. And I would venture to say that the most important things that we do are around getting our mind right, getting our thoughts right about how we think about ourselves, our communities, and the world in general, and to take that information and be able to contribute to contribute to society. So I appreciate you all joining me today. I want to talk something today that's really important to me, and it's about all this political discord, and especially when we look at that political discord when it comes to social media. And I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, especially for us older folks that, we didn't grow up with this stuff like a lot of these younger kids did. And so I think it's really important to understand this. But where I want to start is that, I just think we need to really understand what's going on here, that some of these things, especially the political stuff, if we read something and it triggers us, we just want to go off and we just want to, call them out. And especially guys like us, it's like, oh, bullshit. I'm calling you out on that. And what we need to understand is that logic and facts, if you will, are not going to change that. And I think you probably all experienced that, that you have a conversation with somebody and it's like, in your mind you're going, what the hell, what don't they understand about this? But you have to realize the other person is thinking the same thing. And a lot of times these discussions can get really heated, and these divisive posts, a lot of them that you see, you need to understand that they're not real people posting that. They're coming from bots, robots, even AI. These platforms, unfortunately, are pushing algorithms to get more involvement, to get more people to use their platform. And literally countries like China and Russia see that. They have a huge incentive to divide us as a country, to divide us amongst ourselves. And so a lot of this bullshit that you see online, this enrage, these things that people are getting all excited about, they're actually not real facts. They're just something that these bots have come up with, because what they found is that, see, what happened is this all changed in about 2012. Before then, we could have conversations, and if you're like me, you remember like letters to the editor and Dear Abby and that sort of thing, where this stuff had to be well thought out. Whether it was right or wrong, it still had to be well thought out. And then you couldn't just respond like that off the top of your head with some trigger because of some belief that you have inside of you. And so, first of all, you have to understand where it's coming from, and then you have to realize their goals. They want to set up division and distrust and chaos, especially around a lot of these sensitive issues, because, like I say, they have a vested interest in dividing us. So I think if we understand where that's coming from first, it makes it a lot easier to figure this all out. But like I say, in 2012, they started allowing, push notifications. Before then, it was just a way to, essentially it was a digital newspaper. And then they started allowing and encouraging interaction, and especially when they started encouraging people to argue amongst themselves in the comments, that's when this all blew up, right? And so it's real easy, especially for these keyboard warriors. They can even search on AI, how do I respond to this? Doesn't have to be right or wrong, doesn't have to be factual, but they're so triggered by that, they're so committed to that they'll say anything. And it's real easy. People would say the goofiest things to people online that they would never dream of saying to their face. I promise you that. And so But here's the deeper piece that's going on that I really need you to understand. What you're trying to do when you're arguing with somebody, especially about political issues, is you're trying to change an unconscious belief, and we'll get into this. You're trying to change an unconscious belief that they have with conscious reasoning or facts. And it doesn't work because it's two parts of our brain that don't function together. So it's important that we understand what I'm talking about here. The unconscious mind, the unconscious brain, the unconscious part of our brains is the part that you use when you're driving to the grocery store, right? You don't have to get in your vehicle and think, okay, now I got to punch the button or turn the key, and like my right brachioradialis, muscle has to fire at the same time as my bicep to turn the key, and then I've got to, I got to fire up my optic nerve to look in the rearview mirror or the camera, and then I've got to tighten my soleus muscle to push on the accelerator. You don't think about all that stuff, right? That's automatic. That's part of your unconscious mind, and all of those beliefs, those are all just beliefs that you have. Okay, all of these things, they're almost all 95% plus are programmed into you, into me, by our well-meaning parents, our teachers, our caregivers between 0, I didn't say 1, I said 0, while you're still in the womb, between 0 and 7 years old. That's where somebody tells you money is bad and you don't have the ability to try and figure out, is that real or not? They just said money's bad, so you think money is bad. That's an unconscious belief that you have. Doesn't have to be right or wrong. I talk about it in my book. You can believe in Santa Claus, right? We all know as adults that, maybe that's not so true. But here's the deal. If that belief serves you and it's good for you and it doesn't harm you, then it's okay to have that belief. But we start to have these political beliefs based upon, most of the time, how our parents' beliefs were. We watched them even as young kids, watching TV and getting pissed off about things or reading the newspaper. And we heard that. It's like, why are they mad at this person and they're aligned with this person, right? So that is part of our unconscious beliefs. So when we talk to people about, hey, that's not right to believe that, what you're saying is that their unconscious belief, that program, that tape recorder, whatever you want to call it, that's running in the back of their mind is wrong. And people don't want to hear that. And especially when you try to convince them with logic, with your conscious thinking mind, the one that I had to use to write my book, that the actual analytical thinking mind is thinking, why don't they believe in a certain way like I do? The reason is because their unconscious mind, that programming, is totally different from what you have. So you cannot change deeply held unconscious beliefs with conscious reasoning, no matter if your facts are right or wrong. It doesn't matter. So what do? The first thing we have to do is all agree to disagree, because we're all Americans, at least most of the people listen to this, and we all want the same things. We want freedom. We want to protect we want to feel safe in our homes, safe on the streets. We want the opportunity to grow by working hard, not by somebody handing us something. Real people that think the way we do. We don't want a handout. We just want a hand up if we need it. And we want the opportunity to do the hard work and grow on our own. So if we have these beliefs in common, then when these bots and these there's these people out there, what I would encourage you to do is, number one, just don't even fall for that bullshit. Because as soon as you fall in that trap, especially guys like me, you just want to go get in your pickup and drive and find them and just, get in their face. And it doesn't do anybody any good, right? I'm not saying that you can't stand up for what you believe in. You can most certainly stand up for what you believe in, but you need to realize that you trying to change their mind is not going to happen. Now, what I recommend you do is listen to these other people. I recommend people read books from autobiographies in particular from people that you don't agree with. just so you can figure out how other people think. Because it's good to know, it's good to have that understanding, that information when you're talking to people, okay? You don't have to agree with them, but it's good to understand, to know where they're coming from. And some of these people that you see online with all this rage and all this time on their hands to respond to this bullshit, just kindly, either ask them, that's really interesting point of view of where, why do you believe that, and how did you come up with that? And agree to disagree. But I'm telling you, if you start the back and forth bullshit, well, you're an asshole, you don't know what you're talking about, it never is. You're never going to convince them to think the way you do, just as they're never going to convince you to think the way that they do. However, it is good to understand, because there is this thing called epistemic humility that I cover in my book too. And what that means is that, we've all heard that you don't know what you don't know, but we can take that a step further. And sometimes it's like, we can't even believe what we think we know, right? Because we've all been programmed too. So it's good for us to be called out occasionally to go, hey, why do I believe that? And does that serve me? Does that belief serve me? And if it doesn't, maybe it's okay to change that, okay? But we really need to not get caught up in this BS, because, like, say, number one, it's usually false. Number two, you're not going to change anybody's mind. Okay, so what do we do? What can we do about it? First, just be aware. Most people have no clue that this stuff is going on in their own mind, let alone somebody else's mind. And just be aware. Don't take every angry post or comment at face value. Ask yourself, first of all, is it real or is it one of these bots? Because a lot of times, like, say, that's what it is. And guys like me, it takes us a while to figure that out, okay? Or is it just engineered outrage, right? Okay, so you need to be aware of it. Second, respond with curiosity, not combat. So, like I was saying, why do you think that way? I'm curious. That doesn't mean they're not going to change your mind, but it's good to know how other people think, okay? And if someone's coming from a deep unconscious belief, meet them human to human. Hey, I'm really interested to know where that belief came from, why you think that way. You're not going to change my mind, and I'm not going to change your mind, but I'd like to know, come at them with a story and some empathy and the emotional safety, to go way further than the stats, the facts themselves. And then third, take those conversations. If you really care and you really want to understand, and if it's a person you care about, right, take that conversation offline when it matters. Social media can be a great tool, but it's a terrible place to try and heal division for all of the reasons that I've talked about before. So real change can happen face to face. Go meet them for a cup of coffee or have a real conversation, heart to heart, knee to knee. I mean, that's where these beliefs can be figured out. And sometimes you'll want to compromise. You'll go, hey, I had this belief, and maybe there is something to thinking different, and maybe I need to research that a little more. Maybe, that epistemic humility. Maybe I can't believe everything that I think I know, okay? So just don't be the one that's getting played, by these bots and that sort of stuff. The more aware we become of this stuff, the less control those platforms have, and choose the connection over the conflict. What I call peace through strength. Okay, that's what we need to do. We need to get our own house in order. We need to not get so angry at other people, but we also need to stand our ground and it's okay to let other people know why we think the way that we do. But it requires a little bit of thought. So you don't just, the last thing you want to do is read some comment that pisses you off and just start typing away angrily. It doesn't solve a problem. It doesn't get anywhere. You're not going to change your mind, so I encourage you not to do that. So if you want to know more about these principles, read my book, The Antifragile Man. I think you would enjoy it. Comment, if you would, please. Have you ever gotten caught in some of these things that I'm talking about? I bet you 100% of you have, but I'm not sure how many of you are willing to admit that. Have you ever gotten caught in that? And if so, is there something I said today that may change how you respond or react to that? I'd love to know. reach out to me, send me a direct message if you want to know more about my coaching. Like I said, it's not, people think it's all about chicken and broccoli and Navy SEAL workouts, and it couldn't be further from the truth. Yeah, that stuff we talk about, not Navy SEAL workouts part, but we do talk about movement and training. But these things, these little things about how to navigate modernity, how to navigate, this time that we live in, how to do that elegantly and also help other people, young men and women, to help, set the bar for them. That's what we do here. So if you want to learn more about that, let me know. I appreciate you all listening. And like I say, drop me a comment. Let me know if you've ever got involved in this stuff. And if so, what you've done about it and what you may do differently as a result of this. So I appreciate all of you. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week. Take care.